This presentation will present our paper titled Develop an Inclusive K-12 Outreach Model on behalf of myself, Karen Nolan, my colleague here, Roisin Faherty, Keith Quill, Brett Becker and Susan Bergen. So the overall structure of CS Inc. is that we have three core components: the development of an outreach model, the provisioning of professional development for teachers, and both of these have an overarching focus on research-led practice. So this presentation will look at the outreach model to date and its associated research. So the CS Inc. outreach began in the academic year of 2017-2018, and it's run on the ground by three lecturers, Keith, Roisin and I, and delivered on volunteers' hours on top of full-time lecturing load. So we developed a novel, scalable outreach approach where camps would be mobile and would travel to schools all over Ireland. This way, the schools do not need a functioning computer room, as most in Ireland are underfunded and would not necessarily have a dedicated computing room. So the team simply requires a regular room where we can run the camps using our set of devices and laptops that we bring with us that do not require Wi-Fi. This suits the schools as it cuts down costs on teacher cover and transport to get the students to TU Dublin. So in its first year, the 2017-18 academic year, the camp numbers for the outreach camps reached roughly 2,900 students from 95 schools. So these camps reached mainstream schools, disadvantaged schools, male and female only schools, youth reach centres and even the prison service. And we had an open call to schools. We didn't select or target any schools, but the contacts and the initial links that we made were the foundations for the following year's outreach programme. In its second year, the 2018-19 academic year, the outreach team had bookings from just over 160 schools and reached 4,600, both primary and post-primary level students. And we also started conducting research and collected 2,500 surveys. So this academic year, the 2019-20 year, the camps were fully booked out in under 3 days and resulted in 110 school bookings, and the number of students we expected to reach would have been past 4,000. However, due to COVID-19 and the unprecedented lockdown in early March, any outstanding camps had to be postponed, and it resulted in a total of 65 schools and 2,331 students actually visited. But the research component continued, and we have an additional 1,131 surveys collected this academic year. So looking at the actual outreach model, one member of the team travels to a school and usually runs 3 two-hour camps on the one day, and that allows us to reach 75 plus students in a single visit. The camps for primary and post-primary level use varying pedagogies, which are being further developed using the research collected. But these typically consist of an introduction that aims to highlight stereotypes and address them. For example, the low gender uptake or the requirement to be a maths genius. It's followed by an introduction to code using the BBC microbit, and then the camp concludes with a session on computational thinking. So the first section, the introduction to roles and careers of a computer scientist, is short and interactive, typically about 15 to 20 minutes of a presentation using visual aids. And we show stereotypical images such as this one to the students and ask them what they think could be wrong with each image. What we're trying to get them to do is identify stereotypes in the images using a think, pair, share approach to encourage critical thinking and group discussion. And following the discussion, we give a short presentation on work-related roles and environments available to computer scientists. The introduction then is followed by a hands-on coding session using the dedicated laptops and tablets that are brought by the mobile team. So the IDE chosen was MakeCode Online IDE, and that can be cached onto our devices, which means we can run the outreach camps even if there's no Wi-Fi available in the school. For anyone not familiar, the IDE uses a block-based programming similar to that of Scratch. The coding sessions themselves involve activities with increasing level of difficulty, so starting with displaying the students' initials on screen up to and including building and testing a step counter. So the activities used in this session consists of methods such as modeling, use, modify, create, targeted programming tasks where we try to include debugging, intentional errors, getting the students to fill in the gaps and work from worked examples. We also use narratives, pair programming and algorithm design here. And then finally, in the last 30 minutes or so of the camp, the students participate in pen and paper activities using problems predominantly sourced from the Brevis challenges, with some additional problems sourced from third level to provide differentiation for stronger students. The activities used in this session typically consist of ones that fall under the heading of computational thinking, such as algorithm design, representation, abstraction. And this section of the camp tends to generate a great noise level and interaction with the students. I'll now hand you over to my colleague Roisin, who's going to walk you through the research component of our outreach model.
Thanks a million, Karen. I'm going to talk in a little more detail on the research we do and what we have discovered to date. As you can see on this slide, we have a map of Ireland which highlights the areas around the country where the camps were booked in the year 2019-2020. You can see from this illustration that the reach of the camps is national, from camps up in the north in Donegal right down to the south in Cork. As part of the camps, the team also conduct research in the form of pre- and post surveys given to the class groups. The research that accompanied the outreach camps examined if the outreach camps could change perceptions of students while accounting for and reducing stereotypes and stereotype threat across gender, age, minority groups and demographics. We've collected approximately 3,600 surveys over the last 2 years, but we have yet to analyse these in detail. However, some of the preliminary findings are very interesting. On this slide, we see two graphs. I'm going to start with the graph on the left, but to give it some context, first I want to explain the term DEIS school. In Ireland, there are some schools who have an underprivileged status. These schools are referred to as DEIS schools and qualify for extra state support. The national average of DEIS schools in Ireland is 22%, and it can be seen that for our outreach camps, we got to 24% DEIS schools. This is representative of the population of DEIS schools in Ireland. 78% of the schools visited were traditional, mainstream secondary schools, and 5% incorporates community colleges and further education. The graph to the right shows the percentage of schools visited by school gender type. We can see here that 58% were mixed, 14% were boys, and 30% were all girls schools. Given that there is a low uptake of computer science by females in Ireland, we are delighted that we reached 30% all girls schools as well as the girls in the mixed schools. Having looked a little deeper into the uptake of the outreach by gender, it can be clearly seen on this graph that the number of girls participating in the programme has increased steadily each year to this year, 2019-2020, where we reached 62% of girls versus 38% boys. Admittedly, the programme was cut short in March this year due to COVID-19, and this number may have balanced better if we were able to continue. But the trend of female participation has been increasing over the past 3 years, and this is a very positive preliminary finding. Feedback from the teachers and students has been affirmative. We realise that this model, 3 staff travelling all over the country in our spare time, is not sustainable in the long term, and that is why we plan to refine the model, using our experiences and the feedback on the surveys to improve the pedagogy and the activities at the camps. And then we hope, in the longer term, to package up the camp model and give it away to other universities so that they can deliver this to local student groups. This final slide gives a flavour of the camps. The pictures are taken at the camps and the responses to some of the questions can be seen underneath. I think from this slide you can see that the camps are really enjoyed by the children. If there are any questions now, we would be delighted to take them. Thank you.